Okay, we're back. Back again. December 13th, 2023. And actually, just for this first part, we're going to put some music on. This. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so Wanikani time. We're doing a review. That would be big person because of the two legs. 2, 1, no. Round. Enter. Lid. Drop. Barb. Slide. Fins. Okay. Power. Imagine a guy flexing his arm downward to show power, showing off his steroid pumped arm. It's huge, it's full of power. Okay. Prison. This looks like an enclosure of sorts. That's why it's a prison. It wraps itself around things and locks them in there. Okay. That's a little more abstract, but I think we can do it. Mouth. A big gaping square hole represents somebody opening their giant mouth to tell you something stupid. Woman. This radical looks like a wide person made up of 2 stacked X's. Generally, women have 2 X's for chromosomes, and back in the day, they were praised for their wild childbearing hips. Okay. 2 X's. X chromosome. Woman. 7. What does this radical look like? Nothing much, but what if you turn it upside down? Now it looks like a 7 with a line through it. That's true. I do remember learning this kanji because this is the one for 7. I remember learning it like that. Power. Mouth. Woman. Prison. 7. Okay, good. All right, we're gonna mix things up again today. And before we start back in on the Belle and Sebastian tier list, we are going to look at Imoi, probably. See what we're doing here. Okay, we are in Africa, and we're going from the Ivory Coast to Guinea, Equatorial Guinea. So the one country I know we have to go through for sure, because here's the thing about Equatorial Guinea. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's at least 5 countries between Ivory Coast and Equatorial Guinea here. You have Togo, Benin. Oh, you might have one more. Oh no, you have 6 at least. Going along the coast, you have 6. You have Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Cameroon, and DRC. I think it's either DRC or like... No, it's not the DRC. The DRC has just a tiny, tiny little bit that's by the coastline. The one that I know we have to go through, because it's somewhat large and probably shoots inland, is Cameroon. Okay. Now, the question is, past Cameroon and Nigeria, is there a way up and over Togo, Benin, and Ghana? And I think there is. I think think there is a bigger country above these guys, and I'm trying to remember if it's Mali. I kind of think it's Mali. I'm trying to think if there was any other big countries above. Niger is there. Chad and stuff is over here. I'm gonna actually, what is above? What is in there? There's, oh, Burkina Faso, I think. Nice. Okay, we just need one more, because you can skip all these three. So it's Niger, right? Because that's like right up in there. Easy as pie. Oh, that was a close one. I wonder what most people thought it was. Okay, great. I feel pretty good about that. Yeah, see, you have these three. You could have done Mali. Okay. You could have switched out Mali for Burkina Faso. We just went for the more obscure country path. All right. Moving on to our tier list. Back to the tier list. So, this is where we left off. We had gotten through. Let me turn off the music, because this may be chopped up for YouTube. I have not decided. I think I might end up doing just a separate video, but I'm recording and I have all this footage already, so I might as well keep doing it. So we had gotten through the 4 classic Belle and Sebastian albums. We had talked about how storytelling doesn't really count, and then Push Barman to Open Old Wounds is too much of a compilation. It doesn't have that flow that an album does. And I mean, that's what it was released as. It was released as a bunch of singles from these previous albums that never made it onto a full album. And I wanted to, at this point, 4 albums in, I wanted to give a little bit of background on what I find interesting about reviewing albums. So to me, it doesn't really matter there's a few things that I look for in an album. An album is, to me, a collection of songs that represent a larger idea or theme. And that's not true for every album that I would consider good, but it's kind of where I start to think critically about whether or not I really enjoy an album. So that's why when I see If You're Feeling Sinister, and I mentioned this yesterday, when I talk about If You're Feeling Sinister and I put it in S tier, one of the things that sets it apart from these other ones is a very clear thematic motif, I guess you could say. And I mean, that's not the only thing that goes into it, but that's where my mind goes when I think of an album that interests me. And it's a bunch of things though. So is is a band or artist is an artist taking the opportunity on a new album to explore new ideas or new sounds that they aren't typically known for. I also give points to that. I think having that courage to be able to do something different and to pull it off um, in a satisfying way is something that a lot of bands really struggle with, because a lot of bands will find a certain sound and then they'll just stick with it. So a really good example of this is Radiohead's Kid A, where OK Computer was incredibly successful. It was an alternative rock album, and OK Computer had all of its own experimental things on it as well, especially for a alternative rock album. And then they just did a complete left turn into almost electronic music, but getting rid of everything but rhythm. There's very little melody on Kid A, and it works. The theming of the album, both OK Computer and Kid A, the theming is very, very clear. The messages that the artist is trying to get across are very clear, and it comes together in a satisfying way musically as well. So there are a bunch of different things that I measure the success of an album on, or what I like about an album. Doesn't necessarily have to meet the theming criteria, but for me, that's what I really enjoy and look for. So moving on, we were just about to get into, I kind of want to say, Belle and Sebastian's phase 2. So phase 2 begins with this very transitory album, Dear Catastrophe Waitress. And the reason I say transitory is I mentioned yesterday that this album, The Life Pursuit, was really Belle and Sebastian's turn into a different type of music. And we'll get to that when we get to that, but this album kind of bridges the two phases. So Dear Catastrophe Waitress has elements of earlier Belle and Sebastian, very popular songs. I believe their most played song on YouTube Music, because I don't use Spotify, because YouTube Music is the superior option. It's definitely the most played, I think, on YouTube Music, which is Piazza New York Catcher, which got famous from Juno. That song was on the Juno soundtrack. That song is on here. Actually, I should probably pull up. The albums again, so I can look at the track listings. It's also one of the, it may be the only, it's the first departure from the intro quiet song that we had spoken about too. So all of these albums start with a very quiet song. This one just gets right into it. Right, okay, Step Into My Office, Baby. There's I'm a Cuckoo, which was a big kind of pop song at the time. And yeah, the sort of feeling of the album is much lighter, especially coming off the back of Fold Your Hands. This one is a lot more positive, or it feels that way, but it still is able to touch on kind of sensitive subjects. So Lord Anthony is a song that comes to mind in that regard. I'm trying to see here. But a lot of these sonically, they aren't as dour, especially coming off the back of Fold Your Hands. So, Dear Catastrophe Waitress, Sleep on a Sunbeam, If She Wants Me, If You Find Yourself Caught in Love. Now, where this album struggles is runtime, because this one is coming in at almost 50 minutes, and it's a lot to ask. I think for somebody who, long albums are fine for me. They're fine if there is some sort of theme that I'm following. But if there's no clear-cut theme to the album, I have a hard time sort of staying with it when it's just one song after another. So this album is a little long for me, especially with something that doesn't have a story that I'm following. But it is good. It is a good album. It bridges that gap between the two, because they're not full on, they haven't embraced completely their new production, the new sort of like sound of their the production that we would see on The Life Pursuit, but they still have a lot of that sound. So they're kind of mixing and matching, borrowing from older stuff as they move into this new phase. And I would put this album probably in B tier. And actually, I've been thinking about this. I'm probably going to put this one here, and I'm probably going to put Tiger Milk down here. Dear Catastrophe Waitress is better than Tiger Milk, but both of these are better than, all of these are better than Hold Your Hands. Okay, we're at The Life Pursuit. I want to get to that track list. Okay. This doesn't have this does not have a total runtime, which is interesting. Okay, so The Life Pursuit was the first album to move into, like I said, this new realm sonically. And this is sort of like, to me, it reminds me of when Modest Mouse moved from stuff like in the in the Airplane and Over the Sea. No, moved from the Moon and Antarctica to stuff like Good News for People Who Like Bad News, and have been kind of that way ever since. So what I mean by that is they come in with a higher production value and the sound completely changes, and it kind of gives people it should give you an idea of what production value actually means. It means somebody coming in, and ultimately who produces music is incredibly important, because it changes a lot of the makeup, a lot of the identity of the band. Because for a long time before this, Belle and Sebastian was sort of this twee, sensitive, cutesy, at least in my mind, and I think sonically I think they'd probably agree with that. Looking at these albums and their track listings and listening to them, they're very delicate, maybe is a good word. They're very sensitive, delicate. And then Dear Catastrophe Waitress comes along and kind of shakes that up, but then The Life Pursuit completely changed everything when it came to Belle and Sebastian's sound. So on this album, we have a lot of loud pianos, which is something that we haven't heard before. Act of the Apostle is a good example. We have a lot of... So there's a lot of experimentation on this album for Belle and Sebastian too. We have a lot of crashing pianos. We have a lot of electronic beats, which is interesting. We have, I'm thinking like White Collar Boy. We have on that track, we have a lot of more crunchy guitars, almost like buzzy, crunchy guitar parts. And everything's a little louder. Everything's a little bit more peppy and louder. Lots of bass, lots of drums. And I mean, those like levels have been pumped up. And it is a really fun album. I really like this album. And I appreciate that Belle and Sebastian made a change, because this was sort of a pivotal moment. I think I don't know this for sure, but I was gonna say Fold Your Hands probably wasn't critically acclaimed. I don't think it was, and probably failed to impress anybody outside of really hardcore Belle and Sebastian fans. Dear Catastrophe, and so what I was going to say is they probably had a choice where they could keep going with their previous sound, or they were going to mix things up totally. But then they did have I guess they did kind of make that choice, because it was just Dear Catastrophe Waitress was kind of dipping their toes in. And then they moved from that and fully embraced it on this album. This album is also, although very slight, this album cover sort of deviates from the other ones a little bit, because this is sort of an overexposed picture here instead of the typical sort of color palette. Trying to think if there's anything else to say. I really like this album. I think this is a great kind of pop, almost glam rock, and I would maybe like funk even in certain parts album. It's very bright, it's very peppy, and for me, although it's not as good as Sinister, I will put this in my S tier. I love Life Pursuit. Okay, moving on. Write About Love. This album, obviously, will have always a place in my heart. And because of when it came out, and it was the first album of theirs that I was like present for the release for. This was post, everything else was pre-fandom. That being said, This is not as strong as coming off the back of the Life Pursuit. It is not as strong as that one. And although there are good songs on this, so like I Didn't See It Coming is very good. I Want the World to Stop is really good. They got Nora Jones to help them out with a song on this, on Little Lou, Ugly Jack, Prophet John. Read the Blessed Pages, I really enjoy. But everything else kind of falls short. And to be honest, for the album that was kind of like my first album, I don't really remember a lot of these songs. Right About Love, the title track, is also very good. I forgot to mention that. So there are good songs on this album, but it's just it's not. I wish it was as strong to me as it was back when I first bought it, but it's not doing a whole lot different. There is a theme. There is a definite theme to this album, which is a big plus for me. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's not it's just missing something. I don't know what. A lot of these seem like filler tracks. I will say the highs on this album are really high, but kind of everything in between is a little rough for me. Again, I would probably recommend this album just because of those high points. So I Didn't See It Coming, I Want the World to Stop, Right About Love. But it is yeah, I'm gonna put it, it's better than this. Is it better than Tiger Milk? That's tough. I think I enjoy Tiger Milk more. I think it's going in B tier. Okay. We have a couple more. Okay, so Third Eye Center was the next release. This is just B-sides from The Life Pursuit and Right About Love. So I'm not really interested in adding it to the tier list for the same reason that Push Bar Man to Open Old Wounds. And these next releases. Oh, I forgot. There's no. I created this, by the way, because I didn't know that there was. I didn't know that there was other people that had made this tier list. I thought I was the only one, but if we go back, there were a couple Belle and Sebastian albums. But even this one is missing it. Oh wait, no, it's not. It's right here. But it has two push. What is this? What is this collection of albums? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then this has like everything on it. Let me just put these back up here. Life Pursuit. Where's the Life Pursuit? Is it here? Maybe that's why I created one. Oh yeah, there it is. A tier was this, and then it was Dear Catastrophe Waitress, Tiger Milk, Right About Love, and then this one. Okay, so this tier list has kind of the singles that we see on Push Barman to Open Old Wounds, but it has the album that we're missing now, which is, I think I'm actually going to save until next time because we're moving into what I would consider phase 3 of Belle and Sebastian, with girls in peacetime just want to dance. And these next albums are their latest releases, and yeah, I think we're gonna save that until next week. So I hope you've enjoyed watching. This has been the morning sip without any coffee because I ran out of beans and I need to go roast some so I can actually wake up. Have a good weekend, everybody. I'll see you on Monday.